On Corey, I'd like to make an announcement on last week's meeting. The DDA did not cancel last Tuesday's meeting. Mr. Wagner and Mr. Weaver canceled that meeting. I want you to know that we didn't cancel it because we are dedicated to expediting this project in a timely fashion. They had asked for a meeting and we were going to come through with it if it was just us. So that's why we didn't. And on the other hand, thank you for canceling. I just wanted to come out.
More people have to come on snowmobiles.
Thank you. Okay, Corey, are you ready? Oh, God, we get TV. Okay, well, I would ask that Murph is on the line. He had to go back east for family business, so I would like to ask Al Bourne as secretary if he'd lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, I would like to, is there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda? Hearing none, I would like to get a motion to approve the agenda and all 4 months, or minutes.
I do want to make a change to the minutes. Corey, amazing. Did you do the minutes? But we have to change Paul Benedetti to Paul Sanier. Okay, we know this good because I was like, I don't remember seeing Paul there.
Sally brought that up. I read right through it. I didn't, so I explained to Corey Paul's were, so he knows now.
I'll do control.
Tanner, did you have?
Yeah.
Which set of minutes is that in that you want to amend?
I think it was all of them. Probably all 4 have that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that Mark Weaver had sent an email concerned that the concern he had expressed regarding the COG car's location was not in the minutes. And would you like to?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a correction to the Tuesday, October 29th meeting minutes. It's the 3rd page where Mary Jo, you and I were talking about the dimensions of the cog rail. And what I actually said was, while we're not opposed to this, we don't want it at this location. And I just want that reflected in the minutes, please.
Okay. Got that, Corey?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, with those corrections noted and to be applied, do I have a motion? So made.
Second.
Okay, motion Jan second. Motion made by Jan, seconded by Noel. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, moving right along. The COG installation. I have got all but one bill so far in for the COG move. We're still waiting on Murph at the Ute to get me what the hot dogs cost. Other than that, the COG car so far is $9,901.67. So we are under estimated budget. I believe we got a check from Dwayne Carter for $12,500. So we're well under, and we can do some lighting and some things to it immediately. We've got to clean the car. Tanner, I can't see you. So need something to wave. So we need to clean the car and do some things like that. So we're going to move forward with it. We got a sample of decking that looks as close to natural as possible so we can get some steps and decks made. I've been speaking with Dwayne, and he is was so excited about it, and he said, if you need anything else, let me know. So it sounds like we have a good supporter. And I have $1,030 in donations for the maintenance of this project. And Tanner, I think that you had some folks that had said they would like to donate or contribute to the maintenance. Do you have any information on that?
$12.
$12 is what you got.
That'll wash your window.
That's what
You know
I
what?
have so far. Hey, it all adds up. Those are precious dollars.
Okay, thank you. Well, we will put that out that we are accepting donations for it. And I have to say that putting together an outline of how and who is going to manage the car. I have talked to Sean, can't remember his last name, to put up some Christmas lights. And he's going to do that hopefully before the Christmas parade.
Focus on the forest. That's Sean?
No,
Oh, okay.
no. He's handyman, Sean.
Oh, I don't know.
I'm sorry. I
That's
should.
okay.
Wait, I think I do have his card. Anyway, he's going to get lights up on it for Christmas, and McNulty, Blue Sky Maintenance. So he's going to get Christmas lights up, and we still have to get the car cleaned. He's going to look into some solar spotlights so we can get some lighting on it to deter vandalism, so that the police can see it when they drive by, that kind of thing. So we're moving forward with that, and we will put together probably a committee under the Mountain Arts Council, because that is the nonprofit that we're using, so that the donations made are tax deductible. That's moving forward well. Like I said, we're putting together a small group of people that really have an interest in the COG and can work at maintaining it as we move forward. Any questions or comments on any of that?
Everybody in the community, that's all I've been hearing. Everyone's so excited about it. And they want to know when they can go in it. And I said, we only have it a week. Just give us a minute.
Right. Same way, I have all the people that came in, almost every one of them, when I checked them out, I asked what they thought about the car. I heard not one negative thing, so people are excited about it. Paul, would you like to make any statements or comments about the car? We while he's standing up, this basket here we've put together as a thank you for the COG people. We have a card to sign to thank them for all of their help and generosity. So that's what the basket's for.
Well, I appreciate that, and I too have heard absolutely nothing negative about the car. I'm so glad it came in under budget. It was very difficult, and it came in on time. Hence, I could live up to my reputation. I've never delivered a project over budget or past schedule. I would like to give you the keys to the COG car. I did go in and inspect it yesterday, and everything is there. I did a little work on it. I'd like to take the basket down to the COG Railroad. They have been so kind and so cooperative with us. And also, I'd like to mention the Broadmoor Hotel and the people over there who have been so cooperative. It has been an honor and a pleasure to do this. A little bit nerve-wracking, but I'm glad you have the car. I see nothing negative with it. I don't want to take up any time. I would take that basket down.
Thank you, Paul.
And let them know there's a couple of things that they would like to come up and do to the car and continue to cooperate with you. So they have expressed their support to help with that car.
Good.
So,
That's good. That's awesome.
here you
And
go.
thank you, Paul. This is awesome.
It's your baby.
Yeah. That goes to
Being
Ted.
16 all over again.
I did all the
Keys
board.
to the car.
Nick, would you
Yeah.
hand that to
Let's go
Tanner?
for a spin.
And we'll sign it. And I have the bill of sale for both the rails and car 15 I'm going to give that to Tanner so he can record it. And I also have a breakdown of the Duffy crane hauling. If anybody of the board would like to see these before we give them to Tanner, you can look at them. Anyway, if there's no more questions or comments on the COG car, we will move on. Oh, and any photos. Jan got an awesome photo of the car. I think there's just some beautiful pictures of it. And I also have a drive, whatever you call those, of photos that Dwayne took loading the car at the COG station. Who could I give this to put it on our website? Can you do that? Okay.
You should have that picture on your phone right now if you want to send that around. Because I did text it to you already.
All right. Can you see if you can find it? What's that? All right. Anyway, if there's no more comment from the audience on the car, we'll move on. Okay. The finance updated budget. Tanner, that goes to you.
I'm sorry. Mary Jo, before we get there, we do have potential uses. And there have been a number of requests from private parties to use the car, a number of them. I think the board is familiar with some, as the emails that I've received have been forwarded to everybody. They include, among some others, Mike Williams offer to cover all the costs of acquiring the car and then building an additional structure and putting the whole thing into use as part of his development plan. Mr. Jim Huthmaker, who had offered to pay all the costs of moving and acquiring the car for if he could use it for his coffee roasting business, etc. So as part of the negotiating committee, Murph and I will need to respond to these people, and having some sort of position on what the uses of the car are would be very helpful.
Okay. And I had to comment to that. It is so new, and it's not even really ready to even open the doors to the public yet till we get it cleaned and through. Can we address that at our next meeting in January?
Oh, there it is.
Would that be, is that too long to tell these people? Because this car belongs to the community, and I think we need to put some thought into it and as to how we want to use it and what we would do, and get a little more information from them. Maybe reach out to them. Could you be a little more specific what you have in mind? I'm not sure. That would be up to this board, and I think we need to have a workshop and talk about this as to whether we're going to sell it, rent it, whatever. As far as I'm concerned, it belongs to the community, so we have to be very careful how we address it, and I think it needs a workshop to determine that. Would the board have a comment on that?
I do. We have a development in progress. I don't think any structures around the car would be wise at this time. Maybe that's the approach, that we do have a potential developer that might move it. So maybe if building a deck around it or something like that, I'm assuming that's what they're talking about, would probably not. We should be patient on that and hold off on anything until we have a full development plan.
Well, that full development plan is, our intent right now is
Right.
for it to include proposals from multiple developers, and one of whom really likes that location and would like to build not a platform but a building adjacent to the car, and put that with the car and other buildings that they're proposing with other uses into private use. And so it as we move forward with the development planning, which we're going to get to under item 7, and we talk about NES's proposal and moving forward, that car will be a part of the discussion, and the conceptual site planning that we're hoping to proceed with. So anyway, I can respond however the board directs me. But if we're to continue making progress, having some idea for what the intended uses are for that car would be really helpful. So.
And I agree with Mary Jo. We should have a workshop for future usage, rentals, weddings. I don't know about parties, but building anything around it right now would probably not be recommended at the moment.
Val or Al?
Yeah, Thank you. That's okay. I would certainly agree with that. It's the sequencing of various infrastructure that needs to be coordinated. When you put a deck around a structure like that, that's probably the last thing that we would want to do. We have to decide whether electricity is going to be brought into it, natural gas is going to be brought into it, water is going to be brought into it, sewer is going to be brought into it. All of that requires excavation. And then the deck comes last. To do it first is a lot more issues.
Good point. That's why I think we need a workshop on this. And if we can just get through the holidays with it, hear what our proposal is for the new development, I think that then we can make those decisions. And I would say to them, give us a little time. We're not prepared to make that any kind of a statement on it at this time. And we'll approach it in January and keep them informed and in the loop. And and I don't know how the now that it's there and in place, I don't know how the development feels about it, but I would, as a business person, see it as a marvelous opportunity, marketing opportunity. Maybe a theme room or part of the whole project is themed off of Railroad. Take advantage of that car because it will bring people to town and it will bring interest.
Yeah,
so,
it has.
I don't know what they're going to do. I just thought that as a business opportunity. Anyway, does that sound good to the board? Just to ask them to, if they want to be more specific to what they want before that workshop, if they want to come to the workshop, whatever, we'll keep them in the loop. Does that sound good to the board? Does that sound good to you, Tanner? Can we relay that? Okay. All right, well, I'm sure we've got a big program coming up, so if you want to go on to finances.
As we approach the end of the year, the year-end projection is easier to define with increasing accuracy. So in dealing with Emily, the finance director of the city, she had asked me for some updates to our year-end projection so that she could update the budget going to the city council. And I did make some changes based on actual known figures at this point. So I wanted to share that with the board. I have to apologize to everyone as I wasn't able to really get this done until last night. So it did not go out in the board packet. I do have a number of copies here. I'll spread around the table here. Yeah. And then I have a few extras that can float around the audience. There are no changes to our 2020 budget and only a handful of minor changes to the 2019 year-end projection. So it's not a real big deal. The end result is a better fund balance than what we were budgeting or projecting previously. So if you want to spread some of these around, maybe you guys can share. Is that all right?
Thank you.
We can share too.
Okay. Well, it sounds like I got this email, 11 o'clock last night or something?
At least we're not upside down.
It's the Christmas. Okay. You want to go through it?
Yep, if you're ready.
Okay. Ready.
Okay, so there are 3 columns in the center of this table. One is the approved budget. The next one is dated October 1st, and those are the numbers that I presented during our October 1st regular meeting. Mm-hmm. The third column is dated December 3rd for today's meeting. In that column, there are several fields that are shaded in a light gray color. Those are the ones that have been changed.
Okay.
You'll see that our projected revenues have increased about $4,000. The miscellaneous revenue, which have been donations to the stagecoach and horse sculpture, are down $700 from the projected $4,000 to $3,300, which we have collected already.
Good.
And more may come, but at this point, I'm just trying to finalize things based on numbers as of now.
Okay.
The advertising publication budget, so moving down under expenditures, reduced from $100 to $75. Professional services has come down to $2,300. Legal services down to $22,000. IT, I had neglected to budget for the website's renewal.
Oh.
Previously, we had not worried about such thing as Mr. Sawyer had been paying for it until that was caught after a few years, and we reimbursed him. This has happened again.
I didn't know I was paying for it.
Yeah. Well, I received a notice that our renewal was up, and so I went ahead and paid that. And it was $194, and so I put that in there in the event that the board approves a reimbursement. I'm sorry, I mistakenly shaded the $90 reimbursement for travel and training. That's Ellen's cost of the design seminar she attended in Denver, which she has said she's not seeking reimbursement for, but I've left it in there. County treasurer fees have increased slightly, only because they are a percentage of the revenues. So if the actual revenues have gone up a little bit, those county treasurer fees will increase proportionate to that. The total TIF reimbursement budget or projected expenditures declined at $15. Woodland Station improvements up to $13,500, and that's it. So at the bottom, you'll see we budgeted for a net revenue of negative $23,108. As of October, that had changed to a negative $12,258, and as of right now, it's a negative $8,800. So the fund balance was budgeted at $24,805, changed to $35,655, and is now at $39,113.
Good.
Okay, so I'd just like to make sure these are the numbers provided to the city for inclusion in the city's overall budget, if that's okay with the board.
I would say yes. Do we need a vote on that? Can we take a consensus?
Can we talk about it?
Well, we will do that, yeah. Okay. Any comments? No?
I'm looking at the 2020 more than the 19. The 8,000 abatements, is that set in stone, or that's just kind of a guess?
Those aren't known until after the fact, after they're filed and go through the process, and then we're told what the abatements are. So some years ago, there were, I want to say, $30,000 or $40,000 in abatements within the district that affected DDA revenue, and they hadn't been budgeted for, and it caused the DDA to not be able to meet budgeted expenditures and to actually borrow that money from the city. So ever since then, we've budgeted for potential abatements, and then if we don't realize any, they go away, which is what happened this year. We had budgeted $10,000 for abatements. There haven't been any. So
we're being safe.
Yeah, and over the past few years, we haven't had any abatements, so I'm beginning to reduce that budgeted amount. That's why you see 8 next year instead of 10.
Yeah. Mary Jo.
Yes, Al?
No, one of the murky areas that I see too on that abatement is what's going to happen this year with the significant tax evaluations and property tax bills that are going to come out. Are we going to see more abatements or more issues associated with that? I don't know. And we have to be at least aware of that. With our ending fund balance projected as to where it is for 2020, that certainly gives us room on a bottom line type budgeting process. So we just have to be aware. And I don't know how to predict that. How the residents, and people are going to react when they get their January tax bill.
Okay. Okay, any more comment? Tanner?
Well, one last thing I'd just like to point out. So we had budgeted for a year-end fund balance of 24,805. We will end up with a fund balance of 39,113, which is significantly better than budget, and that is after the purchase of the stagecoach and horses and the acquisition of the train car, which are assets that would affect our balance sheet. So I'd say that it's been a pretty awesome year for DDA Finance.
Good.
One other question. In 2020, what's falling off the TIF reimbursement, the Dinosaur Museum?
Yes.
Okay.
Our very first project. That was a good
Completed.
one. Completed. Okay, any more discussion from the board? Do we need a consensus just to present this to the council or to the city? Okay.
Sounds good.
Tanner, go ahead.
Okay,
And
thank you.
I think that this board has done an awesome job. We have saved all the expenses of paid staff other than Corey, which we're grateful for him. And Tanner, you have done an awesome job keeping our finances in order and understandable. And I think this board has done a really good job. I don't know as the public does, but it doesn't matter. I think we do a good job in protecting the citizens that we represent. Thanks to this board. Go ahead.
Thank you, Tanner, for this. Kind of falling in line with the city budget and the debt services. I think the 2012 debt services, when is that final? When does that end? We used to have charts. Is that
2028.
2028?
I think it
That's
is, yeah.
good. Okay. And then what about the 18 is more of a line of credit? Or
Yeah, it's also amortized through 2028.
2028. Okay. So if we start to, when's the next TIF reimbursement start to fall? What's the next one that's off? So we have a little bit of extra money here. Falling in line with my thoughts of the debt services for the city, we can take the extra money and put it towards debt services. I'd like you guys to think about it. I'm not asking any, but I'd like you to look at that. Maybe we can reduce it to 2026 by just putting some extra payments, because when the TIF reimbursements start to fall off, we'll have some extra money there to put towards our debt services. Just a thought.
Well, I got a thought. How much was paid to debt services prior to about 3 years ago? Nothing.
Right.
Okay, so I just want people to realize that we are making strides, and also please consider that when you're scrutinizing the board.
I'm not sure. I think the DDA's done amazing. I mean, looking at this budget, it's getting better and better every year, and I'm sure if we project it out to 2025, it would be even better. But I'm just thought. I mean, this isn't our money. This is everybody else's money. So let's look at it and try to, because we're going to save more money in the long run with interest than we are if we put money down now.
My recollection is that's very much what the discussions have been. Because as finance improves, we aim to accelerate debt service. And
We have always said that,
Yep.
and we stand on that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, can we move on? We've got a big program coming up here. Can we move on from this? Tanner, anything else? Sales tax, vendor fee, any business license, any of that?
No, those were tabled for work session.
Okay. Sounds good. Development proposals for Woodland Station. Update on the Taba Group, Mark Weaver. Mark, the floor is yours.
Okay, great. Give me just a minute. I need to give you some handouts,
Okay?
if I may. Start with these. I think I have enough. Nick, do you mind passing this around? No, sir. Thank you. And these two, please. Let me pass them on.
Yes.
Thank you.
Do I need to be, is this mine? Do I need to worry about it?
There's a switch on the side. I'm not sure if it's on or not.
Oh, yeah, it's on now. Well, good morning, everybody. DDA Board, thank you for taking time to hear this presentation. As you might imagine, we're pretty excited about what we're going to show you here today. I want to introduce our whole team. Ryan Lloyd is our architect. I think you may remember Ryan. Chef Victor Matthews, who is going to talk a lot about the restaurant and the business concept.
Good.
Derek Wagner, who's the owner-developer. David Maharis, who's our civil engineer. And Lisa Hickey, who is our attorney. So that's our team. We wanted to show you that we're all here, and we've all been working on this. The last time you saw anything about this proposal was back at the 1st of August. And since then, Derek and I, Ryan, Tanner, Murph, we've had meetings to talk about tweaking, and even with George and Mike, tweaking the site plan to accommodate it for the overall as much as we can. So what you're seeing today is that product of those meetings, which have been going on for months. So all these people have been involved in it and are aware of it. So let's get you to the interesting things. So this is the revised site plan. This is what we want to go with. It is still mostly on DDA, a lot too. Would it help, Al, if I brought the site plan around? Would that help?
Can they see it? Because we have it.
We have
You gotta
we have it here, and if they can see, audience, can you all see the screens? Do you need to have that positioned for you?
We could move the screens.
Oh,
So, I wish I had a pointer. So this is the new
oh
site
my
plan.
leg again.
So you see our Tava House and the event center. What we did in the first iteration that we showed you, that was flipped. Remember, the event center was on the west side. So we flipped it, and we've moved the site for the building down from Berkshire Park 40 feet. And that came out of a desire to accommodate some kind of open space right up by Bergstrom Park. We don't want anything on it. We want it to be true green space, but that's what that is. We pushed the building south 40 feet. We still have the landscape open space, maybe some kind of future retail up here and down here. We just don't know. We're talking with different people about that. We're not exactly sure when and if that will actually happen, but we've site planned it in here. This over here that includes cooperation from the owners of AmeriGas. That's just conceptual. There's a lot to work out there and make decisions about, but we put it in the site plan just to show you that maybe we can get access through AmeriGas over to this access by the round thing. By the way, does anybody know what that's called?
Tava.
There's that. I've heard that.
It's
Tava.
Tava. Okay. So do you see how we're trying to incorporate different users. We're trying to work with Mike and George, work with y'all to try to accommodate things that you want for this new site plan. The building is still, and we'll get to that in just a second, the building's still 6,000 square feet. So that hasn't changed. We want the design to stay like we originally showed you. We'll show you some elevations here in a second. But this is the latest site plan we want to go with. So before I get into the floor plans, any question about this? Okay. Yep.
I do have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
I appreciate the negotiations with AmeriGas. It would be
Yep.
wonderful
Yep.
to incorporate that into this development and get the whole
It
side
would.
of the street rolling.
It would.
I commend you on that effort. If that does not happen, what is your plan B for parking for the Tava house?
That parking that's shown right there, we'll have to eliminate that. So we'll have to find another place to put it. Do you see the far west where the city owns a small lot?
Yes.
So we're not quite sure what we, meaning all of us, want to do with that. We assume it's going to be parking, overflow. We thought about parking for RVs, that sort of thing. So we'd like to use that. That's more of a placeholder to show that parking right there. We'd like to use that. We should all think about how we're going to use that. I know there's been discussion about punching through that over to West Street. That would be very expensive. I don't know who's going to do that. So, yes, ma'am.
Have you spoken with Darren about your thoughts of the possibility of that happening?
We have not.
There he is.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
that's
it's kind of an
something to
odd.
move forward.
Yes, ma'am. It's just sort of an odd piece right there, and so we just anticipate it could be used for parking.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So at this time, I want to introduce Victor, have him come up. Anybody else that wants to come up? And do you mind just walking him through what we want to do for the restaurant? Does anybody not know Victor? Say, okay, yeah, so you don't have to do the introduction or any of that.
I better. I know most people, but not everybody. So if you don't know me, I'm Victor Matthews. I've been in this community 20 years, over 20 years. First got the Black Bear 99, so yeah, 20 years. So I've been in Woodland, Manitou, and Green Mountain Falls, which is where I live, for 20 years. My goal has always been the same, which is growth and business and awesomeness for everyone. It still is. So in this particular project, when they asked me if I wanted to be involved, I thought, wow, this could be something really cool for the community, for visitors, a place to go to add to all the wonderful things that we have. I've always been sort of a pie builder. Like, my goal is to make the pie bigger, if that makes sense, to give more people more access to more things, to bring more people to the community, support more community activities. So that's what we're doing in anywhere we are, in Green Mountain Falls and in Manitou Springs. My school now is working with Briarhurst Manor, so we're in Manitou a lot, as well as up in my distillery, which is in Green Mountain Falls, Black Bear Distillery. All those things plug into this in some form or fashion. So business-wise, my concept is always to try to create multiple streams of activity within any given business. So if one thing's up, the other one's down, they can balance each other out. And a couple of the ideas here, besides having a beautiful, restaurant concept, is to try to use other parts of the community and businesses at the same time. So, for instance, the school could be involved. Since you run a lot of businesses that are restaurants, run at night or weekends when they do banquets and things like that, you have a lot of daytime, weekday time down. So you could have a school activity, making this sort of a Paragon. My school's called Paragon Culinary School. Our main offices are on Garden of the Gods, and our main teaching kitchen is Briarhurst Manor in Manitou. So to have a mountain site, so to speak, like Paragon, in the mountains, we could have students involved there, and that would create a whole bunch of activity as well. When it comes to the idea behind the food and beverage, I mean, obviously we're a little early to get really detailed on that. Not a whole lot to say yet, except that it would be awesome. The plan is to have, what amounts to a tap house concept, utilizing lots of local products, lots of local businesses, to have a place that people could come to do, events, small events, things, like weddings or whatever else they need a space for, and have that green space around you and those events and all those things kind of connected together. So that's kind of beautiful in my mind. And then possibly to have even a more finer dining concept mixed in some way, so that there's another restaurant. The more that we can do to build the pie, the more we can attract people and give people things that they can do in town, the better. So that's sort of my point of view. I'm food and beverage, so a whole lot of things about sites and elevations and that stuff's not me. But when it comes to making something that the maximum amount of people would enjoy, that would be an asset to the community and to all the grand scope of things, that's sort of what I'm here for.
Good.
Any questions?
Thank you.
All right. Thanks very much. If you have anything for me, I'm easy to find. I'm online everywhere. So if anybody has any questions for me, like what about blah, 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 just shoot me a question anytime.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Wait, don't leave
Thank
just
you.
yet. So just to summarize, so what we're doing is on the ground floor is the tap house, sports bar, roll-up doors, out on the deck to the open space. That's that concept. Then upstairs, some kind of fine dining. Then the event center, and then possibly the culinary school. So you see how we're trying to blend all those things to make it work. Victor talks about multiple streams of income. That's what that's about. And we can bore you to tears with a business concept, but I won't do that to you now. So any questions about that? We wanted you to see the floor plans just so that you know we've gotten that far.
How many people will this hold?
Let's see, 100 in the event center, 60 to 70 in the fine dining, 200 down in the tap house. Was that? I believe that's the number.
The seat counts are on the bottom right of the floor plans that you have.
So if you maxed it out, you would be 350 but you're not going to probably do all that at one time. Your tap house area is going to be functioning most of the time. Your fine dining is going to be probably nighttime and weekend, and of course events are mostly weekends and mostly summers. Of course, there's an occasional Christmas party, things like that. So they're not all functioning simultaneously typically, but you can see how the kitchen running along the backside like that kind of interlaces everything together. So you can put out from that kitchen food to the tap house as well as an event that's going on. It's kind of the design.
Good. So if we had one big event, this facility could hold several hundred people.
Yes.
Okay.
The idea would be to have it function independently, but if there ever was a need for something large, that could also be accommodated.
Okay. Good.
So the floor plans you see have all these concepts designed into them. So that's big kitchen down on the bottom to accommodate all that traffic. Okay, let me show you the elevation. Thank you, Victor. So this is the elevation that shows it flipped. So you guys that it's orients with the site plan. This board, this is what we want to do. This is the design we want to go with. We've heard comments about it. We've tried to accommodate it, but this is what we want to go with. We just think it looks super cool and looks appealing and attractive, and will be a great draw for the city and for the region. So that's that elevation. Is there anything else? Is there anything, Ron, that I have failed to mention? Team, anything else? Okay. Right, yeah, no?
Mark, thank you for doing this. It's beautiful, actually. I'm curious, do you have a rendering of the elevation drop from the street down? Could that be provided and see how far down it sits compared to Bergston Park and the street? Or is it just going to be...
You're talking about like you're standing in the street,
Yes.
looking at the elevation of the building and how it
Right,
lays
exactly.
on the land. We don't have one of those.
No, we don't. But if you look at the view looking southeast in the two exterior renderings in your pack, yeah,
right.
you're on it. You can see the south elevation appears to be a tall, almost single-story building, whereas the north elevation is clearly 2 stories. We have sunk the front of the building into grade. One, just because that's the way the grade works, but also we're trying to hide the loading areas and dumpster enclosure, things like that. So we are taking advantage of that site. So and again, we've obviously not taken this to 100% because we don't have the land yet. But as we develop the site, we will get into more detail of how that's going to work.
But you see where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
I mean, you basically, if it's so big, it's just going to, Bergston Park is, it's kind of it doesn't have the view it used to.
Yep.
At one time back in one of the other developments, when we were talking about 2-3 story buildings, they had talked about the board was having a hard time getting a visual of really where this was going to be. We had talked about balloons depicting the height, and wonder if, as you're coming through, if you could work that in. I think that would help as a visual. I know when we had that tent over there, that really helped as a visual for the board to decide how that was going to look with those stories. Anyway, just consider that as you're doing it, and if we could see that, it would help us. And the community as well.
So David, we've got the topo survey, don't we? So if we get you the dimensions, then we can, we'll show the position on the land, and maybe from that.
Yeah, we could set a finished floor and from Ryan and I to figure out what those sites look like. Yeah, we can get some references.
But
Good, that would sure help us.
No, you want it from like the intersection at Center Street to show that south view and how it would be.
Yeah,
Okay.
the height, so that the board as well as the community can see what that's going to be. So.
Okay.
Yeah. This is not a tall building, especially from Highway 24. And having moved it 40 feet even further to the south is really going to help that view from the park. So.
You know how you know where the car is,
Right.
There's a terrace right there.
Right, you'd
Our
start
building
on the
starts
lower
on the
one.
lower one. Yeah.
So literally, I mean, depending on the topo, if you moved it south 10 feet, you could almost drop it even 5 or 6 feet in elevation.
Yeah, we're going to have room for the service areas on the north side of the building.
Just an observation.
Yep,
Mark.
yep.
Yeah, and I would stress that we do want visibility from Highway 24. We don't want to sink it so far that it's not visible. So.
No, I don't think it's not going to be visible for sure.
And Dan, the concern is obliterating the view of the peak, especially the businesses that are on the north side. That's a major concern. My other question is, it is a beautiful building, but I'm looking at the, I'm calling them 2x4s. I have no idea what size, that holds that little roof up.
Yes, ma'am.
Could
Those
that
beams.
could those be chunkier? So
Yeah,
it's not
those
to
are-
look like such a modern building. I mean, it is a beautiful building, but we want it to be able to fit into the theme of Woodland Park.
Yeah, those are big, like 12 by 12 timbers.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
Oh, from just looking at this, it looks like 2x4s.
Yeah. No, they're sizable.
Okay.
Jan, you're talking about the angled timbers, is that what you're talking about?
The angled and then,
Patio, the bottom
Yeah.
patio.
Okay.
Yeah, the patios are.
right down here.
Yeah, the angled ones and the beams are all 12 to 16 inches. The columns on the patio are like 8 by 8, so maybe they could beef up a little bit.
bigger,
but,
yeah.
Well, I would say that some of those details might go through our negotiating
Sure.
committee as it progresses. Murph, we haven't forgotten you. Do you have anything, any questions? Murph? Murph died.
Say that, man. Yeah.
Good at that.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I just had you on mute.
Oh, okay.
Watching it I'm sitting here actually watching it on computer, and there's a little bit of a lag.
Oh, okay.
Well, you scared us a
Well,
little
do
bit.
you have any questions or comments or anything to say?
No, not this time.
Okay, all right. Any project date, what, break ground?
Right, it's a great thing. I was about to get to that about timeline. Our timeline is very tight because we need to begin construction this next summer. If we're gonna have it open, you want to hit this for an opening about March, April of 2021. If we can't hit that, that puts us out another year. So we must start construction this summer.
Okay, then
Yep.
we're not holding it up.
Yeah, there's other things, and Tanner and I have had a lot of conversations about it. There's all sorts of moving parts with this. And our concern is that this is just going to take too long. So if we don't hit this, then we're delayed another year, and that's not good. Any questions?
We're here.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
You
we're
bet.
not going to hold this up. You do what you have to do,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
we'll do what we have to do quickly. Tanner, I know you
Any
have
questions,
something to
comments?
say.
Yes, sir.
I guess I'm good with Tava House and all that, but what I have concerns about is potential use, open space, potential use. Why do you need that? Why don't you just build Tava House and we'll get on with it?
Well, we want to, a great question. We want to control that lot too, what goes there. As you probably detected, we're very protective of what goes in around us and how it fits with the theme of the building which you're trying to communicate to the public. So we don't know what that potential use might be. It all depends on the market demand for us as developers. But we draw it in there, Jerry, just to hold it and think if it's not going to be retail, then it's just going to be open space. And at this stage, we just don't know what kind of demand there is for the retail. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does, but I differ on that opinion. I think that Lot 2 is not necessarily for sale. Sites on Lot 2 might be for sale, but I think that the DDA has a interest that property with the Tava House going in, with the Williams projects going in, is only just going to grow in leaps and bounds. And who's to say that you won't come in there later and throw apartment buildings or something on it, you know?
Okay, I see your concern.
And so I'm not sure that if you have a project, I'm all for it. Tava House, let's go. But I'm just not real excited about just giving you the land.
Okay.
Okay, duly noted. That will be in the minutes. Tanner, we need to move forward with time. Tanner, please go in negotiating your thoughts. What?
Thank you very much, Mark.
Yep. Thanks, Tanner.
Well, from the negotiating committee standpoint, it sure is exciting to be able to negotiate on these things, because that means there's activity and interest and potential, and we've been making some progress. A lot of it you can see from the Tava House group and what they've drawn here on the plan. So I've had conversations with Planning Director Sally Riley and with the City Council and staff on some of the parts and pieces here, and I think that we have a pretty good understanding for the process forward. and next steps that we need to take in order to continue advancing the development plan so that we can realize development in the time frame needed for the developers. And equally exciting are the proposals from George Christian and Michael Williams that have come to the board and haven't really been made public yet. But as all of those uses and that proposal integrates with the rest of this, I think we're postured for a really incredible development at Woodland Station. And I would agree with Jerry that that'll be the catalyst for additional development, likely, that will occur at the property. So anyway, hopefully the board has seen the proposal from NES. Murph and I have agreed that we'd like to move forward with that, engage NES to draw up a conceptual site plan for the property that will integrate the various proposals we have, and that will allow us to put that concept in front of the city for review and begin discussions with traffic engineers so we can start to understand the requirements that are going to be imposed for infrastructure, such as the extension of public utilities, drainage, and access through the property, so that those things can be negotiated between us and the other parties, and we'll be able to determine, hopefully at some point sooner than later, the feasibility of all this and if we really can accomplish it. Mm-hmm. So the proposed cost from NES for drawing the concept plan is $3,000. We would ask to share that cost with the private parties interested in development, as those are costs of the development, and perhaps some additional budget for NES's assistance in processing. So coordinating with city staff and with traffic engineer, that might be another $1,500 in total to begin those conversations with NES at the table and work through the initial phase of planning those infrastructure improvements. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Does it to the board? Any questions? I have a copy of NES's, if anybody needs it on the board. We've all seen it and read it. Do you need it?
No, ma'am. I was just going to say, if you're
ahead,
done
Mark.
with me, just looking at my team, anything else? Is there anything I missed that needs to be discussed? Okay. I think, Tanner, just to tag on to what you're saying, the CDOT is going to be something to negotiate. Mm-hmm. And the overlay in general makes this cumbersome too, and you know how we feel about that. But those two things we see could slow this down, and that would make things difficult for us, just so you know.
Well, Tanner has stepped forth to
Yes.
expedite it on our end.
Yep.
So that's in the works, so whatever.
Thank you so much for listening to all this. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure. You're all finished then?
Yes,
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you,
Mark.
Mark.
Thank you, Beth.
And thank you, team, for coming. It was nice to put a face with the names now.
Yep.
So, it's an exciting project, and we are behind it. We just need to make it work.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure that we'll have, that we really have the rights to sell land for speculation. So with regard to the potential retail,
Okay.
we may need to seek some relief from city for that, as the city did not approve the amendment that we put forward as we proposed it. It was changed a few times, as you all recall.
Uh-huh.
And those changes, part of the changes include maintaining development obligations on the DDA. So we are responsible for ensuring the development of the site, the whole site. And selling land for speculation is not something we're authorized for. So this is sort of in between. It's kind of in a gray area because they're seeking to purchase land for development with some of that additional land for speculation. And so we just may need to discuss that with our attorney at some point as to whether we're really authorized to do that, and possibly seek some relief from the city and just have their blessing if we were to approve that.
Yeah, okay. Then maybe we should do that sooner rather than later to find out. So the project, we're not going back and redoing the development side if we can't do this. So maybe talk to Paul sooner rather than later, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, talk to your attorney, Paul Sonier.
Okay. That's good. Okay, so we need a consensus, or well, I would say we need to have a motion on the NES amount of our budget to go ahead to move forward with this. We need to approve the funding to pay this, and we do have the funds to do that, correct?
We do, and
Okay.
timing being what it is, I expect we won't incur those costs nor pay them until 2020, so our 2020 budget would be affected. We do have $10,000 in the 2020 budget for Woodland Station improvements. If we approve $4,500 in cost and split that 3 ways, we're at $1,500, and that'll get us through concept planning phase, hopefully.
Okay. The board hears that. So can I ask for a motion on that? Is there any discussion on that? Could I ask for a motion to approve those funds for NES so that we can move forward, speculating they would be paid in 2020 out of that budget?
So made.
4 seconds. I love progress. Okay, so motion passes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay, so go ahead with that. Call Paul Benedetti about that so that we can, anything else that we need to talk about, Vic Tanner, that you have on finance, or let's see, and members of the structure of the negotiation committee. Murph, did you have anything to comment on? Be in the negotiating committee?
Murph, take us off mute.
Okay, we're good there then. Okay, so we can move on to general discussion. Nick, do you have anything?
I can hear them both. Just that, Small Business Saturday was awesome. Thank you guys for putting that on.
It was a lot of fun, especially picking the donut holes up
I'll
off the
bet
square. That was
with the
fun
wind
too.
we had and
Yeah.
everything like that.
And Rocky and Roll's music was like
Right.
incredible.
It was, everybody that I talked to was really happy. A lot of talk about the Cog Railway too. So it was a very good weekend. That's about it.
Good.
I agree with that. Al?
I have a question for Sally. Give me a ballpark number, Sally, if you can, to do the subdivision process of that lot consistent. How much time should we allow?
Well, it takes 60 days to get through the submittal, the planning commission, and the city council. So it's a fairly quick turnaround, 60 days for a subdivision. Of course, your lead time for your surveyor to prepare a preliminary plat and a final plat.
Sure. And that we have to add on to it, yeah. Just that we've got to take that into account.
Yes.
That we, Good, thank you.
Okay. Anything else, Al?
No, thank you.
Okay, you bet. No?
Glad to be sitting here again. Thank
Glad
you.
to have you back.
Yes.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is some exciting times for Woodland Park. I mean, these are developments that are going to be here the next 20, 30 years. And we've got to get this right. We've got to do it right. And I think the ball's rolling really well right now. I think we're all on the same page. I think the finances are well. Everybody showing up here in the audience is great. That shows commitment to the community. And so I want to thank everybody for being here. I'm excited about this. I mean, that's been a vacant lot since dirt was new, I guess, since, I mean, so let's,
Do you know how old dirt is?
it's old. But I think we're all excited about the potential here, and I think if that whole area can be developed, there's even more potential on top of that with what can do with the development going in. So I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to work with every one of you, and I like to see the smiles on your faces. So good morning.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, and I would like to say again, shop local. This last weekend was great. It really kicked the season off. We've got a short time between Thanksgiving and Christmas because Thanksgiving was so late. So, that really helped to get it rolling. I think it's good. I think that the parade's coming up this weekend. We all should be excited. Yeah, so I think that's good. And our festivities was awesome on Saturday. And the Wind Symphony Mountain Brass was there. It added to it. It was great. The Carter family was absolutely ecstatic at how it all went. And we're going to call the car Myrna. It's named. It's got 2 plaques with the names go. So we're going to call the car Myrna. Anyway, it's a good thing for the community, and I think I've heard nothing but good. Glad to have it. I hope we have a good holiday season. And I am truly happy that this progress on the development of Woodland Station is actually moving forward, and we are going to put all our energy that we possibly can into making this a successful development. And Tanner, thank you for the hours and hours that you're spending with your business and working us in around that. So thank you. That's all.
Mary Jo, I might also give to you, I do have the words that Dwayne Carter would like to have on the dedication plaque, so I'll give that to you here at the conclusion, yeah.
Corey, you got anything?
None at this time.
Jan?
Yes. Saturday is the parade at 6 o'clock, but before that we start off with Breakfast with Santa, and the holiday home tour is that weekend. Get your tickets for that because that's going to be great. And then the parade's at 6. Unfortunately, this is my first time in over 10 years that I'm going to be missing this parade because I'm leaving tomorrow for a week. But I'll be at another parade physically, but spiritually I'll be here. This is home. Shop Small Saturday was, you were right, it was amazing. It was amazing. There was wind, but not enough to deter people. So, and like I told you, it was fun picking up the donut holes at the end of the day when it blew it all over the square. That was kind of a shock, but it was fun picking them up. I felt like we were in a cartoon. And Rocky and Roll was amazing. They had music playing. You could hear it all over town. It was just great. So, and people are really excited about the COG. They really are. So it was a great day, and it's going to be a great Christmas.
Yep. Jerry?
Well, first off, I'd like to thank you and Paul very much. That COG is a huge bonus plus for this community, and I can't say enough. The opportunity was there. You seized upon it, and there didn't leave a lot of time for discussion or anything, but it's there. So now I just think that it's important that we all rally around and take it. But your guys' efforts is very much appreciated. That was quite an event that with the band playing and the old time enactors and horses. It was wonderful. Yeah. And then I've got to say that I'd like everybody to remember that Mike's Crazy Hat Contest is going on during the parade.
Oh, sorry.
And we want to see if we can't get a few people out there. I run around town and grab certificates from different businesses and as prizes, and it's just a good small town fun thing to do. And So please, get your crazy hat or get your kids to do one, or but it'd really be good if we could get a lot of participants.
Thank you,
Anyway,
Jerry. Good.
thanks.
Good. Okay, Tanner?
Thanks. Echoing everybody else, I've heard nothing but great things downtown about that cog car. So many customers coming through tweets have commented on it and expressed their gratitude for our bringing that to town. So I want to relay that. Now, on that note, I did receive some criticism, and I would like to share that. I encouraged the woman who was critical to come forward, and the thought of showing up to a 7:30 meeting, she cringed. In any event, she was rather upset that the DDA accepted money for the car from someone without giving that opportunity to the whole community. She said she would have paid more for the sake of naming rights for the car, had she been given the chance. And the thought hadn't even dawned on me, and I told her I don't think any of us had anticipated, ending up in some sort of bidding war for selling the naming rights to this car. But there seems to be that level of interest out there. And,
interesting.
yeah. So it might have been an oversight to react so quickly to the offer that was out there and not put that out to the community. I just want to share that because she was rather upset.
Well,
Interesting.
The gift was unexpected.
I know.
This is a good opportunity to do benches with names. This is a good opportunity to do plaques or pavers with names in them, kind of like we did at the Memorial Park. I mean, we have options.
Well, I think that's a good thing to come up in our discussion when we have our special meeting to talk about this, what to do with it. So I think that we need to, that's good information. We'll address it in that. Yes.
Mary Jo, I might even bring forward, too, that Dwayne Carter, who, did provide the funding for this, has been a business person and a community developer for decades. So he has a long history. He's not just somebody who floated into town. So this was his life for a long, long time. So, and that's interesting that we could have had a bidding process.
We didn't know.
No, we
didn't even know. But there certainly is a history both for Myrna and Dwayne and their connection to the community for many, many years.
Well, we'll consider that, and hopefully we can make it right.
Maybe we can find another project to bid.
Yeah, right.
Why not? I want to mention one thing. There is a treasure hunt connected with the parade. The clues come out, and the gold sponsors who are in that brochure get the clues every week until somebody finds it. So, and we've got a pretty big gift basket as a prize. So,
okay, good deal. Ken, or were you done?
I'm just really excited about the holiday home tour this weekend, so thanks for mentioning that, Jan. It's going to be a good one. The homes are beautiful. The venues are beautiful. Hopefully the weather cooperates. People out there have been very excited, so looking forward to it. Should be a very, very busy weekend in Woodland Park.
Good.
And I do have Ellen on the phone here.
Oh, Ellen's with us too.
Yes, I would like to say something. Hearing all this happiness is great. I'm here in Connecticut. My flight was canceled, but I'm happy to be a part of this wonderful community. Woodland Park's a happening place. I think also to be noted the collaboration between our city government, our private business people, and volunteer committees has been wonderful and has been growing. Really, we've been doing a great job this year, all of us. So thanks. I've enjoyed listening.
Thanks, Ellen. I'm sorry I didn't know you were on there. Thank you. Sorry. Murph
Mary
is
Jo.
on. Anything else, Murph?
You gotta turn that volume up.
His actual name is Desire because everybody desires to name it something else. I don't know where to go there. Tanner, were you going to ask anything about the other possibility of other train cars? Or bring that up? Or do we need to discuss that further elsewhere.
We need to discuss that further, because I don't know. We need to discuss that further elsewhere.
Okay, not a problem then.
Okay.
But yeah, I think the acceptance and how well received the car was, that is just we need to look at that opportunity again.
Okay.
So, all right, I'm good with everything. I think Tava House is a great thing. But yeah, Mark, I'm going to tell you as a restaurateur, don't be too worried about that getting started up, because you're going to find out that in March and April, everybody's saving up, what's that? Oh, the money they got to pay the government. So it's not a real busy time. You definitely want to be in place by June, though. Because in May, they're still recovering to save up enough money to buy groceries after paying the government.
Good point.
Good point.
Okay, thank you, Murph.
You're welcome.
Okay, we've got about 15 minutes. The audience, any discussion?
I got a copy of Tava
Okay,
House plans.
George,
and,
anybody over
and
here?
Victor Matthews, for you.
Pat, anything? Okay. Yes, Kelly.
Thank you. I just wanted to tap on to the events this weekend. There's 2 more going on. The tree lighting that is after the parade, immediately following, this year has been moved to Memorial Park. So if you come up Center Street from Highway 24 after the parade, you'll find Candy Cane Alley into the park, and that's where the Crazy Hat Contest will take place. And the tree lighting and hot chocolate. We're going to have fires in the fireplace, compliments of Tip Top Tree Service. And so be sure and share that information so that people don't go to the Cultural Center this year and they come to the park. And then the other thing that happens over the weekend, in addition to the holiday home tour, is on Sunday after the tour at 6 p.m. at the Cultural Center is the Wind Symphony's concert, their Christmas concert. So be sure and attend that as well if you can. Thank you.
Thank you. Debbie?
Okay, now I'm going to talk about nuts and bolts of things. So first of all, at 2 p.m. today, we have a ribbon cutting for our new coffee house, The Human Bean. So I hope everybody shows up for the ribbon cutting. And then on Thursday, we have a lunch and learn for everyone about tax planning at the end of the year, so that we get ready for the things that Murph just talked about, so we're not in a funk. So Tom Gearhart will be teaching that. That's 11:30 to 1 on Thursday. And then on December 10th, we are bringing up George Russo. He's an attorney with Mountain States Employers Council. If you're not aware, the overtime law has changed, and the federal government changed the overtime law. So if you have salaried people who work for you, this will affect restaurants, it'll affect Walmart, it'll affect all businesses. But the rules for the overtime has changed. So that's a free seminar December 10th. It will be at the Cultural Center from 10 to 11:30. Just get online and you can sign up for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Anyone else? Sally?
Thank you, Mary Jo. I just wanted to build on Ellen's comment about collaboration. Tomorrow afternoon is a meeting of the placemaking partners. So this is a group that Main Street, DDA, Keep Woodland Park Beautiful, the City Arts Alliance are all involved in order to implement the 3 strategies for placemaking that include walkability, signage, facade improvements. And so this group will meet tomorrow afternoon to continue to discuss the various elements under each of those strategies, and that also Jan's EVC committee with Main Street, they hosted coffees for the business owners, and we appreciate everyone who attended those coffees to understand the various elements that we have laid out to try to address these various strategies and placemaking. So it's going well.
Thank you, Sally. Those coffees were nice. I went to one of them. That was really nice. That should be done more.
Good.
And it was nice having the 3 where you could pick a time. If you couldn't make it one, you could make the next. That was a good setup.
Sarah did an awesome job presenting the information that she did. We
Well,
turned
and
a lot of people around. You were awesome. Sorry.
and perhaps you've noticed the new parking signs that have gone up on the highway. So we have consistency and directional signs that hopefully will entice people to turn off the highway, stop, park, and pull out their wallets.
Okay, anyone else from the side? Before we go, I would like to ask if we could set up a workshop meeting for the railroad car. I think we should do it sooner rather than later because there's so much excitement involved with it. I think that we should keep that momentum going. So when would be a good time? Has anyone got a calendar?
Yes. Anytime after the 10th. So I'm back.
I think our workshop that we had at the campground, which one did we use?
Oh, Bristlecone.
Bristlecone. I thought that worked very well. Did the rest of the board think that worked well?
They were very accommodating, and Carmen provided food, which I regret to say that I keep asking, and to this day he's never helped us. He
Well,
just kind of smiles and said, "I'll get to it."
Okay, that's good. I realize it's the holiday season. Maybe if we do it in the next week or two, we could do it after that. I think we should move it into January. What are your thoughts?
I think we should move it to January. Maybe the first
January
week.
when?
Yeah.
How about the first or second week?
What is our regular meeting in January?
The 7th.
The 7th? Maybe do it prior to that?
Sure.
Would that work? Wednesday night?
Wednesday's
good
the
night.
Wednesday's the 1st, or the 8th is after the meeting.
What's a good time for all of you? Is Wednesday good? Is Thursday better? Thursday's usually council.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, Thursday's council.
So Wednesday?
Yeah.
The first Wednesday in January. Does that sound good?
Well, that's New Year's Day, and I don't think you're going to have much participation.
Okay, then Friday. That Friday's not a good
Friday's
day.
the 3rd,
Then let's do it Wednesday after our meeting.
the 8th.
Does that sound good? Okay.
Yes.
Workshop Wednesday. See if Bristlecone is available.
I
We'll
will.
plan it there. Do the same. We'll find someone else to do maybe some sandwiches or whatever.
And it's going to be an evening event?
Right.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Unless you want to do 7:30 on Tuesday. I think it's better to talk over there. I think it's a more
It is.
relaxed atmosphere. I think people
And it's a
talk
beautiful,
better.
it's a beautiful room.
I think that that's a better place for it. It will be an open meeting, however, because it's a workshop and because it's a time where we need to just talk, the public is definitely welcome. Probably we will not take questions or comments. We'll have them set up so you can write them down and we'll address them at our next meeting. If you have anything, to contribute, but you
Mary
are
Jo,
welcome to come.
Maybe,
Yes.
can we reconsider that a little bit? It seemed like we got in a whole bunch of trouble last time.
I don't know how to do it open where we can just talk. We need a time where we can talk and get this stuff done. Yes?
So is that an open public meeting or is that an executive session?
No,
Because
it
if
would
you're
be
not
an
taking
open
public
meeting.
comment or participation, then it shouldn't be an open public meeting.
That is not consistent with our attorney's advice.
No.
Now, it may be bad form,
Yes.
but it is, according to Paul, perfectly appropriate for a public body to adjourn to a retreat for the purpose of the board's discussions and to take public comment at a later date. I'm with Jerry. We took a lot of criticism
Yes.
for the last time, so I'm all for public comment personally.
I am too.
How many people showed up
Okay.
last time?
The room was pretty full.
Well,
Really?
I think there were four that weren't a part of the board.
There was several council people here.
Yeah, I think it was
Four, wasn't there four of you?
maybe just play it by ear.
Well, there was, but you allowed Paul to sit at the table with you and participate.
Well, we invited everybody to sit at the table
Anybody
with
could have
us, and
sat
they
there.
didn't do it. See, this is the problem.
This
that
is
we
the
have.
problem.
Yes,
May I
Paul.
say something,
Yes,
please?
Paul.
Thank you, Billy, for that insight. It was truly an oversight on my behalf to sit at that table because I did not realize. I apologize to you and everyone in this room right here, right now, because it is not appropriate to sit at the head of a table without being invited. But I was asking questions, and my arrogance and ignorance,
It wasn't yours.
it was. I should have realized, but I did not. I apologize to each and every one of you. And please, if I do it again, please remind me, because I am not the most epic person in this room, but I am humble. And I do appreciate you bringing that up. But don't blame DDA for my lack of knowledge and education. May I say that the blowback that you are getting now indicates that you should take questions from the people who attend your meetings. And I apologize for any misunderstanding or scrutiny that you were taking because of an action that I did. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, then do we agree we'll have an open meeting and everybody can talk? Does that suit you? Yes, Kelly?
Could we please have the date again?
January 8th.
The 8th.
At what time?
Is 5 too early?
Yes.
6. 6 o'clock
Okay,
on Wednesday, January 8th. Did you write that down?
I got it.
Okay.
And the workshop is for specify.
And the workshop is for the use of the railroad car and how we're going to move forward with it. Okay?
That's fine.
And you got it? Okay, well, we've got 5 minutes. Jim?
Just want to add for clarification to this discussion that is just taking place, having worked at the state level on the open meetings law. There is no requirement, and there is a requirement for openness in the meetings, without a doubt. There's no requirement to take questions. That is merely a matter of courtesy and political matter, just to confirm your legal advice. So you're within your rights to not do questions. It can be very appropriate and extremely helpful for the community that you offer yourself to take those questions, and it can also be very constructive. But there is no legal requirement to do that. So I just want to make that clarification so that when you do offer questions, that's just a kind courtesy to the community to offer input, and it can be very constructive as well. Just want to make that clarification for you.
Thank you, Jim. Did you girls hear that?
Loud and clear.
Gotcha. Okay, then, is there any other discussion? If not, it is 2 minutes till. Look, we got out of here before 9. I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So made.
Second.
Second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
So we're going to take executive session?
No, we don't have anything to do. Yeah. You know, we just put that on there just in case. I don't know. I said, well, maybe we shouldn't do that because people won't come, but we do it anyway.
Okay. Way better meeting. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you. I feel better.
That was Kelly.
You know, and this is just bullshit. You know.
That was totally uncalled for. It's a workshop for us to do.
Grandstanding was
I
kind of
know.
funny.
We're